Good morning. I'm Sharon Gaber. I proudly serve as Chancellor of the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. Pleased to welcome you to the Belk College of Business Spring C-Suite Speaker Series. To keep everyone safe, we have a small but exuberant audience of Belk College of Business students who are here today, but an audience in the hundreds who are joining us from Charlotte and around the globe via Zoom. The C-Suite Speaker Series, in its 7th year, provides the opportunity for Belk College students to hear firsthand from some of America's leading business leaders, including many Niner friends and alumni. I can think of no one more appropriate for today's speaker series, someone who has watched this university and city grow. He's a business legend, philanthropist, and Charlotte icon, Mr. Hugh McColl Jr., retired chairman and CEO of Bank of America. I'd argue that no one had more influence over banking in the 20th century than Mr. McColl. During his tenure as chairman and CEO, his bank grew more than 50-fold to become an industry leader in retail, commercial, corporate, and investment banking. As his bank grew, so did Charlotte. More than anyone, he's the man who built Charlotte into the thriving metropolis it is today. After retirement, he began a second life as an entrepreneur. He's founded several companies, including Falfurrius Capital Partners, where he is co-founder and chairman emeritus. His time in Charlotte dates back to the early days of our university, back when we were transforming a dairy farm into what we are today, an emerging research university with 30,000 plus students that serves as a major economic driver for our growing region, contributing more than $2.5 billion annually to our region's economy. Mr. McColl has been a longtime advocate for this university. His involvement spans decades, serving on university boards, steering fundraising campaigns, underwriting campus initiatives, and helping bring Charlotte 49er football to life. He's also mentored many of our alumni over the years and hired our graduates. And a special shout out to the 2,200 Niner alumni who work at Bank of America, many of whom are joining us this morning. Speaking on a more personal level, Mr. McColl's mentorship, vast knowledge and connection and guidance have meant the world to me as I've transitioned here as chancellor of this great university. Please give a big Niner welcome to our very distinguished speaker, Mr. Hugh McColl.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chancellor.
Thank you. And I know you want to hear from Mr. McColl, so now I'm going to turn this over to our moderator for today's fireside chat, Dean Jennifer Troyer. She serves as the 7th Dean of the Belk College of Business. Dean Troyer.
Thank you, Chancellor Gaber. So we'd invite all of you to share your photos on Instagram and Twitter by using the hashtags Belk College and C-Suite Speaker today. So thank you for joining us, Mr. McColl. We're really delighted to have you here.
Well, I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
So, and welcome students, alumni, friends who have joined us today, either in person or virtually. So I'm going to be asking you a number of questions, many of which our students submitted when they registered for this event. And we're going to talk about a wide range of topics today. So we'll talk about your journey, we'll talk about your thoughts on the current climate and UNC Charlotte and Charlotte. So let's start with a question about your journey. So earlier in your career, you had a vision of being the head of the biggest bank in the nation. So where did that audacious goal come from?
Well, I guess when I had been working here a couple of years, or early on, I found that our bank really was unimportant in the United States and in the world. We thought we were important, but we weren't. And I guess as a Southerner, I felt the view that we didn't have any capital in the South and that we really had to go to New York to get anything done. And I didn't like that. And so I just decided I wanted to change that. And I spent then the next 42 years doing that. And I found that it was a lot easier than one would have thought, because nobody else was thinking about it. Sometimes you can succeed at something because there's no competition. But we had competition. First Union also was trying to build their bank at the same time. And the only thing that the two banks really agreed on was that we both hated Wachovia with a passion. And so that was the first thing we had to overcome. But I just got tired of being unimportant.
Understood.
I guess would be what I would say.
Yeah. So you spent 2 years as an officer in the Marine Corps. How did that shape your leadership style?
Well, I think the Marine Corps is unique, and I got most of the values from my company out of the Marine Corps. And the first thing you learn in the Marine Corps is everybody pulls their pants on the same way. They don't care whether you went to the University of North Carolina or Princeton or Bennettsville High School. They don't care. And they don't care who your mother and father are. They don't care what color you are. They don't care about any of that. I used to joke and say we treated everybody exactly the same, which was cruelly. But I usually get a laugh at that, but then apparently not a very alert audience today. But anyway, I'm joking. Anyhow, I also learned that in leadership that you never ask a person to do something that you won't do, and that when you want to take a hill, you lead people up the hill. You don't order them up the hill. And you don't eat until the troops eat. And you never leave anybody on the battlefield, that you bring back your dead and your wounded. And so it's a group of people that bind themselves together as one team. And if you put on the uniform, you're one of them. And you can only prove that you shouldn't be. And so as I ran my company, I had the same view. Whether you'd been with me 30 days or 30 years, I treated you exactly the same and trusted everybody. And that prevailed in our company. And it was a brotherhood and sisterhood. We were close to each other, and we looked after each other, and we truthfully despised the enemy and put all of our energy externally, not internally. We were very competitive people. And I surrounded myself with good people and let them do their thing. That was really what worked.
Understood. So, you've had quite a journey, and quite a distinguished journey. Have impacted banking more than anyone else I can think of. So what are, so we've got these young folks here getting ready to start their professional careers. What are a few things that you've learned over the years that might help them as they're getting started?
Well, I think the most important thing that I've learned throughout my career was that you accomplish a great deal more through other people than you do by yourself. No matter how smart you are and tough, whatever, you can do a lot more with other people than you can by yourself. So what I think, I talk to a lot of young people who want to be leaders, and I think the real question you should ask oneself is, why would anybody follow me? And people will follow you if you can take them somewhere they can't go by themselves. And so you have to be able to articulate, you got to have a vision, you've got to be able to articulate that vision, you've got to articulate it so people can identify with it and see the reward for it. And then you have to be fair and equitable in passing out rewards for people who take you to that goal. So first thing I think you have to understand is you accomplish more through other people. The second thing is that you get told this by your parents when you're young, and you get told by your teachers, and you get told by your DIs. Nothing works like hard work. If you're working when other people are not, you're going to beat them. It's just a fact. And I know that from a long career working hard. And so perseverance, drive, ambition, all those things go together. But you have to work hard. It's not going to be given to you.
So you've retired some time ago, but that doesn't mean that you're not very busy. So can you just talk a little bit about what you're doing these days, what you're up to?
Well, after I retired, I went down to the ranch turkey hunting for a couple of weeks and came back. Phone didn't ring for a couple of weeks, and I decided I can't handle this. So I was used to being busy, so I got up with a couple of young fellows that had worked for me in investment banking, and we decided to start our own investment bank. We got 4 young partners, and we went into business we actually got our license on the day that the planes hit the tower in 2001. We had no customers, no revenue, and 6 of us trying to make a living. And we built it into a business that made $50 million a year, and we ended up selling it in 2014. We started in 2000 and whatever that was, and ended up selling it after 14 years and made quite a bit of money. And during that time, we grew to about 50 people from original 5, and everybody that worked for me ended up making over $1 million a year, and some made 2 or 3. But it was we built a really successful business. And I started really 6 businesses: 2 art galleries, one in New York, one here, American Fine Art, 1840 to 1940, and French Impressionists. And I managed to lose millions of dollars both in New York and here. And I found I didn't know a thing about retail, and I had to learn that the hard way. And I still have a cattle company. I have Longhorns in South Texas and grow beef cattle, and that's made money, which is one thing I did right. If people fell in love with grass-fed beef, and prices went from 90 cents a pound to $2.90 a pound, and so made money. And then Foul Furious Capital Partners has been a tremendous success for us. So I've done a lot of different things, but that's not what I'm doing now.
Understood. So, you've taken a lot of risks over the years, and can you just, talk to our students a little bit about taking risks and what's important to think about?
Well, I guess that, I don't know why this is that I feel this way, but I'm not afraid of anything. Not afraid of people, and not afraid of things. And I incidentally think fear is the enemy of our country, and that if you're not afraid of people, you get to know people, and you get to know people from all walks of life and from everywhere. And so maybe I don't see risk enough, but I had a teacher. My boss for 17 years was Tom Storrs, who had a PhD in economics.
Yes.
Brilliant man. And he taught me how to isolate risk, how to analyze it and take it apart and figure out how do we deal with each part of it. And then once you know what you're looking at, then you know better what the risks are and how to deal with it. So he taught me that, and so things that people thought were risky weren't so risky. Like we took over the big Texas bank, and it was failing. It was losing $50 million a month, and we took it over, and we knew that what we had to do was get rid of the bad credit that they had, and so we spent all of our effort trading with the FDIC about that and getting them to absorb all the losses. And we took that company from losing $50 million a month to making $500 million the first year and $1 billion the second. So, and on the way to the forum, figured out the tax benefits. And I like to tell this story because it's the greatest victory of my life. We had been in business 114 years, and our tangible net worth was $1 billion. And in that deal alone, we got $5.6 billion worth of tax credits. And so after that, it was sort of Katie barred the door. We had money. And everybody thought that was the greatest risk, and everybody said that we were going to fail because of stepping into something that big. It was a company bigger than we were. And we were about a $30 billion company. It was a $35 billion company. And people thought we couldn't manage it. We only sent 10 people to Texas. We took the people they had, I'd learned a long time ago. People know what they're doing. If you just lead them properly, they can make it happen. And it made us rich. Made everybody that was around us rich. And including Joe.
Including Joe. So I was going to mention Joe, actually. So Joe Price is here today. He's a proud UNC Charlotte alum. Was part of your team at Bank of America, also a partner with you at Belfast Capital. So you've mentored him and many successful Charlotteans over the years. So what makes a successful mentoring relationship?
Well, first I want to say that I'm sure he would say I didn't have any mentoring effect on him at all, but and I don't claim any. I think I would lay claim to him as we had him. When we used him properly, he was a brilliant officer and he was big into solving problems that needed to be solved. He could do it. I think the relationship that one ought to seek is where you can discuss things with each other and sort of find what the problem is and then talk openly about it and solve it. So what I try to do in talking with young people is trying to see what they're faced with and help them look at the real facets of it that can be dealt with and how do you deal with it. And I think one of the things living as long as I have is I've made a huge number of mistakes, and so you learn a lot from mistakes, and so you can help people avoid them if they'll listen.
If they'll listen, right.
No, but I view I think of all my relationships as personal, and I like to know the people and know what know what makes Johnny run, know what makes Jane run. And everybody's different, and so you have to really care about each other to make it work.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So there are many dimensions of success. So how do you measure success?
I'm sorry?
How do you measure success these days?
Well, success is interesting. I would say success is accomplishing what you set out to do. And the biggest challenge in life as you're young, and maybe as you get older, because I still don't know, and that is, what is it I want to do? And the easiest thing to figure out in the early years is what you don't want to do. And it's helpful to find out what you don't want to do. I mean, I think it's real important, maybe to try a few things and say, this is not for me. And there's nothing wrong with that, because you're lucky if you get it right the first time. So I think a big part of learning is figuring out what you don't want to do and then trying to figure out what you do want to do. And once you know, then you can achieve success by doing it. And it's not any more complicated than that. Now, some people like to measure it in money, and or power, which is a word people think is a pejorative term, but I don't. I always sought power, not over you, but I didn't want you to have it over me. I really wanted freedom. I wanted the freedom of anybody having power over me. And so that was my goal, was freedom. Never achieved it, incidentally.
Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, you never get there.
So, at one point you brought together some CEOs to talk about corporate culture and to really think about addressing issues of corporate culture and, the lack of confidence the public had in corporations. So where do you think we are now on that?
Well, I can't speak for other people and other companies. I do think there's been a breakdown between how corporations appear to treat their people and how the people appear to treat their corporation. Now, I came out of a school, I'm an old-fashioned person. I worked 42 years for the same company. And I went to work for it one day, and 42 years later, I retired. But we built it into a huge company. We had a great culture. We believed in each other. We were one team. I think our secret was that we gave people the room to achieve their personal goals. We let them have room. I admit to being arrogant and having a big ego, but the truth of the matter is I didn't think I could do it all, and I would get the best person I could and assign them a job, give them the power to carry it out, and hold them accountable for it. And so I trusted them with my corporate life. They in turn trusted me to be fair and equitable in judging them. And so that's the contract that I think that our company had. We had a contract of mutual trust. Now, if you think about it, if you're a successful salesman, you're out there selling something that you don't actually manufacture or deliver. And you are trusting your teammates to do what you're selling. And so the entire company was built on mutual trust. And if we had someone that break that chain of trust, we would either fix it or eliminate them, one of the two. And we were really quick about that. You either were on the team or you weren't. We didn't have people that said they would do something then did something else. So we lived by our word, and we liked each other, and we achieved great things together. And we were able, the most interesting thing is we carried that culture from a group of 4,500 people when I took over the company to where we had 250,000 when I retired. And we still had the same culture. And it's very simple. We communicated with each other. We talked to each other. We said, this is what counts here. This is how we do things here. And we would go in the war room and we would debate any subject. And we didn't care where the ideas came from. In other words, we judged the idea on its merits, not the platform from which it was launched. So just because you were senior didn't mean your idea was going to carry the day. But once we reached the decision and we left the war room, we went lockstep. Nobody could deviate from what we finally decided. So we had a way of making decisions that worked. We got the best decision out of it. The decision that really made our bank better than all the rest was our decision to go to a single platform, which we call the model bank, and it allowed us to absorb gigantic banks without even breaking stride. And that came from a very middle level executive.
Interesting.
And so those are sort of some of the things that made us different. But liking each other really had a lot to do with it. We played together. We were hard playing as well as hard working.
Oh, that's great.
People that are familiar with that would say that was true. Yeah.
So I'm going to switch a little bit to kind of the current climate. And, in 2020, we had these two crises that emerged, the global pandemic and then sort of the outrage and protests in the aftermath of the killing of George Floyd. So these have changed how a number of us think about things. And I'm just wondering, how have the past 2 years affected how you look at things?
Well, I think the thing that I'm the most worried about is our democracy and the inability of our people to get along with each other, and how we become alienated with each other over what seemingly are nothing. And that worries me a great deal. And one of the reasons America was so successful, and let's say the former British Commonwealth, is because we had a common set of laws that you could do business. You knew when the numbers are real. A contract is a contract is a contract. And we're having a breakdown of all this worldwide, and a breakdown of, let's say, that sort of approach to doing business. And I think it can only lead to disaster. Now, I'm not a worrywart, but I am concerned about the democracy. And I am concerned about people doing things that I never thought would be done in the United States. That is the corruption that I see that shouldn't happen, that we never had before. And so that worries me. But having said that, that's not the main worry. My main worry is the printing of money. I look at the the situation we're in today, where we have excessive amounts of reserves, and we have, in the simplest way to express it, in which I've always thought of and have seen in every money crisis we've ever had, is too much money chasing too few good deals. And so money gets poured into areas that it shouldn't get poured into, and eventually it causes the system to break. And that's where we are today. And asset prices have gotten way too high. And it can only lead to, at some point, a collapse. And the collapse will be worse because we've printed more money. We have a longer way to come back from. So I mean, I'm not being pessimistic, I'm just being realistic.
Yeah, it's where, we are where we are. So, lately we've heard a lot of discussion around sort of systematic inequities in our society, especially racial inequity. So what is the role of business in helping to fix that problem?
I think business, the businesses of America can make the biggest change the fastest. And they can do it in hiring policies, they can do it in philosophy of where they purchase goods, they can do it in many and do it through philanthropy, can do it many different ways. I'm always leery of saying anything that sounds like that I'm trying to be religious, but there's a real simple rule if one follows up, which is to treat other people like you'd like to be treated yourself. That is a biblical admonition. And I, as a Southerner and an American, I look at what we have done as recently as the 60s and 70s in terms of how we treated people of color, and think, how did we do that? In other words, now you look at it and you say, how could we have done that? And the last 4 or 5 years of my life, I've spent almost exclusively in the black community in working to help young people make their businesses successful. And mainly, I find they're plenty smart, they know what they're doing, and all they lack is access. And what I can help them with is contacts and helping them get contracts at things they know how to do. But our society is really guilty, as charged, in terms of how we've treated an entire group of people for hundreds of years. And we shouldn't be proud of it. And so I've been trying to do my part to change that. Now, I used to think that I could do anything, but now I don't think that. But what I do believe is that I believe that if you so-called teach a man to fish, then if you can give people a skill, train them, educate them, some in college, some in other more practical work, then they can buy their own homes, they can educate their own children. And so the real thing is to open up opportunity, provide training, and that's really what I'm working on as hard as I can right this minute. I look at myself, and I used to think that I was successful because I was really smart and aggressive. But if I look back on it, I was a white male, University of North Carolina graduate, Marine officer, and I had no competition from African Americans, very little from women, none from Asians. And my whole generation of people that looked like me and had that background were hugely successful, got rich, ran big businesses. And we got to thinking a lot more of ourselves than we should have. And I don't feel so smug about that anymore. I realize we're not competing. The young people today are competing with the world. They're competing with every person in the world. And whether it's the Chinese or whether it's the Russians or whether it's somebody from the Philippines, wherever.
Yeah.
we're in that competition. So it's a different world, and those of us who prospered out of the old world need to be sure that we understand that and pay it back.
I appreciate that. You talked a little bit about owning some art galleries, so let's talk about the arts. So it's been one of the sectors most impacted by the pandemic, especially the performing arts. So, as a longtime supporter of arts here in Charlotte, what can or should we be doing to help support the arts?
Well, I think that what we really should do is to try to make it easier to be an artist and that a musician or whatever. And part of that is providing them the platform from which to operate, or a place like the McColl Center where you can practice the art of painting or other art, pottery, whatever, weaving, whatever, and support it. And I'll have to admit that before being married, it never occurred to me to even listen to classical music, or much less go to a ballet. And now I think the world of the ballet dancers. I think they're great athletes, and they're great talent. And I wish I was that supple and could do what they do. And so, I mean, I'll have to say my wife's played a big part in getting me interested in the performing arts. My mother was an artist. My sister was an artist. So I've always been interested in art, and which led me into the art gallery business. And I will say that artists are very difficult people to deal with, and so I had this brilliant idea that I would only sell art from dead people. Then I wouldn't have to talk to the artist. And to do that, I had to buy the inventory, and so I put a tremendous amount of money in the inventory, and so then I was putting my judgment against the market, and I failed.
The market won, huh?
I lost a lot of money doing that. But I've got a partner in New York still in fine art, and she and I are very close. She's been in the business 30 or 40 years. And I still do business, and I do it in what I'd call the high end of the market. So average net purchase price might be somewhere around $250,000. Have sold some as high as $7 or $8 million, but I still do it because I enjoy it. But I don't have the galleries anymore.
Understood. Yeah.
Do it out of this inventory I have left.
So I want to, in the time we have left, I want to talk a little bit about Charlotte and UNC Charlotte. So this is our 75th anniversary year, and I noticed you chuckling when the chancellor was talking about us being, transforming the dairy farm into what we are today. How important has this public university been to the Charlotte region? Well,
the truth is that the university has been way more important than it actually gets credit for. You're looking at your own statistics. I mean, the number of people you have living here, working here, that are graduates of the university, play a big part in Charlotte's history. It really goes back to the early involvement of your architectural school with the design of downtown was really important. They played a huge role in, let's say, in the 70s and 80s, and when we were really building the city. Your business graduates, your engineering graduates play a big role in the city right now. And it's a two-way role. One is that you're providing education for people that otherwise might not be able to get one because they can come here to school without having to go live up east or somewhere and get a great education. And so I think that the school has been hugely important, and whether the city has grown with the college or the college has grown with the city is hard to, we've grown together and prospered together, truthfully. When we were trying to build our company, we were trying to attract people from New York and Chicago and San Francisco and South Africa and London and Paris, and trying to get them to come to Charlotte to work was a challenge. And that led us and to really press on trying to build our city, make it attractive to people to live in. And I don't think there's a city anywhere, I'm sure there's not, in which you can walk to the opera and walk to the ballet and walk to the symphony and walk to pro basketball, pro football, and pro baseball all within 4 square miles. And if you put your mind to it, you'll see you can't. There's none. So a lot of that, the ideas for that came out of this university. And a lot of the help came out of this university. And a lot of the people that helped make it happen went to this university. So we have a very close connection. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it's applauded as much as it should be.
I would agree.
And I'm sure the chancellor would agree.
I'm sure she would.
And she would start with me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, we just finished our 10-year strategic plan where we are, you know, working to become an emerging top-tier research university. And I mean, we're there. We want to be better, and really value our connectedness to Charlotte and this region. So we hope to be a part of the future growth of Charlotte as well.
Well, and you can help spur new companies, new types of companies to come to Charlotte, which has started to happen. It has begun to happen. So we're looking forward to it.
So talk to me a little bit more about where you see Charlotte heading.
Well, you know, I don't know exactly the answer to that. I mean, here's what I think about Charlotte. I think Charlotte is an open city. As long as we remain an open city, it will grow and prosper. Mm-hmm. What we have to avoid is going backwards and putting in new restrictions on behaviors or what have you. I mean, I think people can be who they want to be here. A young person can come here and be whatever they want to be. And I think that's important. And it makes us different from a lot of southern cities, in fact, 90% of them. Mm-hmm. And I think that is one of our great strengths. And I hope that my vision for the city, my hope for the city is we become a city that unites itself more and demonstrates it cares about its people who have been left behind in a socioeconomic way. Mm-hmm. And while we have tried many different things, none of them have worked yet. And so what I think will work is job training and jobs. Mm-hmm. Those two things together will do more to make this a fair and more equitable economy than it has been in the past. And I think that would only make us richer. Mm-hmm. In other words, you're an economist, you know this, that nothing works like having everybody make money to make the GDP get better.
Yep.
And I've always said that the South really changed direction when we integrated the schools in the 60s. We got rid of this separate but equal, which was never true, but which cost a lot of money to maintain. Mm-hmm. And when we threw that off, the GDP of North Carolina and the South in general grew faster than that of the United States. Our city grew not only in income, but in jobs and population, everything faster once we threw off that burden. It was a dumb idea when it was had, and we should never segregate ourselves again. Now we have done it again in a socio-economic way, and that's, if you have a dream for Charlotte, we have to overcome that. Mm-hmm. And the main way to do it is jobs, training, and jobs. And I see us doing that. I think Charlotte loves a challenge, and this is our major challenge, and I think we'll, as a group, come together on it and do something about it. Mm-hmm. Now, the business community has stepped up on the mayor's program, raised about $200 million. Of that $250 we see written about in the papers, it's really probably closer to $300 million. A lot of that money just came right out of the major corporations here in the city. Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's a deep commitment to working on the problem.
Very big one.
I agree.
And they've committed jobs too,
Right.
to be off-takers of graduates.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, I'd like to get a sense of what you think, so as these folks are sort of headed into starting their careers, what's different about what they're facing relative to what you were facing when you started? Now, you've already talked about, there's more competition now, but are there other dimensions that they might be interested to learn about or hear about?
Well, I think it's the same. It just looks different. In my opinion, the way to get ahead is to, whatever job you get, figure out what's required of you, take care of those requirements, discharge those duties as well and quickly as you can, and ask for more. I don't know a single corporation that doesn't want people that want to do more. And I think that's what I did. I always asked for more assignments. And I believe if you do your job and then ask for more, as opposed to doing your job and going fishing or go playing golf, which apparently a lot of people are doing, I think you're going to get ahead faster. And so that's one thing I think. I don't think anything changes in the sense that the business may look different, feel different, but at the end of the day, the people that can motivate and lead large blocks of people are going to win. If you get people going in the same direction, you can win. If you can't do that, then you're not going to win. And I think the way you do that is by demonstrating that you will do anything that anybody else will do, and you don't tell somebody to do something, you show them how to do it, and you do it with them. And when you're young and you're learning, ask questions. There's nothing wrong with asking, how do we do that? There's really nothing wrong with saying, why do we do that? Why don't we do this? Now, a lot of times you're going to get slapped down when you do that, but get back up. That's the key thing, learning to get back up. No one has a straight line of success. I got beat up a lot on the way up the hill. So I think it's important to know that you will have some hard times, and learn from them and put them behind you and keep going. That's really would be my advice.
So you've mentioned that you've had lessons to learn yourself and that you've had some hard times. Are there any in particular that you might want to share?
Well, I want to think about
growth opportunities is what we call them, right?
Say that again.
Growth opportunities, right?
Oh, yeah, well, sure. Well, sometimes you can misjudge risk, and you've got to learn to dig out of it when you have. And I was never somebody that wouldn't change their mind. There are a lot of people that won't change their mind, but I think that if you're wrong, and I had people would come and say to me, Hugh, you're just wrong. And if you are, then you have to learn to be able to change your mind. So I'd say the first thing that I learned early on was that you're not always right. And particularly when you're really sure you're probably not right. And, when you always, and so being able to change your mind and not feel like you've had a loss, that you just learned something. That's one thing that I think that one of the things that was difficult, I tried sometimes to change people for the better, as far as I saw it, and it wouldn't work, and because there's certain personality types that dug in on where they are, and you can't fix that. So I guess facing up to reality quicker would have been something I should have done. I fancied myself quite a good leader, and therefore didn't want to acknowledge failure. But it's not necessarily a failure. It's just that some things can't be changed. Anyway, I don't know. I'm sure I made a lot of errors. I've been thinking about it. One of the ones I made was early on was I tried to do a lot of hostile takeovers, and they don't work. So I had to learn to control my aggressive behavior. Some would say I never quite reached that nirvana, but you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar.
Sure.
And so it's just that simple. And I learned, in fact, when I first tried to buy CNS, I made a hostile tender offer and failed, and was drawn and quartered in the press and everything else that you could think of. Came back 2 years later and was a white knight. And in order to get my body language down and change I stayed up all night on purpose and read a book the whole night to get completely tired before I went to the merger discussion. And learned to sit on the same side of the table with the person I was negotiating with, as opposed to being across. I mean, I did everything you could do, and it worked. It was painful, but it worked. It worked. So, you figure out what you got to do different. And I learned to manage my personality over the course of my career. And I said, if I summed it up, I would have learned to talk less and listen more. And that would be the advice I'd give me if I had looking back on it.
Oh, that's great. So we got many questions from students in advance, and I'd like to invite two of our peer guides, Diego Sid and Kiyoshi Roberts, to help facilitate the question and answer session by asking just some of the questions that we received from the students. So Diego, let's start with you.
Thank you, Dean Schroyer. I'm Diego Sid, and I'm a junior marketing major from Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I want to thank Mr. McColl for being here with us today. The first question is, if you wouldn't have pursued banking, what path do you think you would have taken?
Well, to be very honest, I never even thought about going to work, just to tell you the truth. And I'd grown up in a little town. In fact, we owned a bank, and we had a big cotton company and owned farms. And I thought by right of primogeniture, I would just come home and run the businesses. And so I never had any real ambition in college or anything like that. And and I was in the Marine Corps. In those days, you knew what you were going to do. And I came home, and my father asked me the same question you just asked me. He said, "Son, what are you going to do when you get out of the Marine Corps?" And I said, "Well, Daddy, I thought I'd come home and help you." And he said, "We get along fine without you." He said, "You better go get yourself a job at the American Trust Company," which is the Bank of America. Anyway, I got a job here, and I never looked at another job. And I don't know what I would have done. At one point, I thought I wanted to be an engineer and build bridges, but I don't know what got in my head about that, how that could possibly happen. But I've never thought about anything else. And I like people. I didn't really want to be a banker, but I like running things. And so once I got there, I wanted to be president of the bank. I mean, I understood. In other words, I've always wanted to be in charge. It really doesn't matter to me what I'm doing as long as I'm in charge. That's a funny personality, I know, but it's worked. Anyhow, no, I don't know what I'd have done. I knew what I didn't want to do. I didn't want to be a stockbroker. I didn't want to sell insurance, and I didn't want to sell real estate. I didn't want to do what everybody else in my class was doing. And I didn't know anything about manufacturing, so it didn't really leave a lot, And I understood money.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, Kate.
Thank you once again, Dean Schroyer. My name is Kiyoshi Roberts. I'm a senior majoring in Management Information Systems, and I'm minoring in Operations and Supply Chain Management. My hometown is Nassau, the Bahamas, and I would also like to thank Mr. McColl for being here with us today. Our second question is, how have your views on banking regulations evolved since you've retired?
I'm sorry?
How have your views on banking regulations evolved since you've retired?
Well, I would say this, that I'm out of the school that I always never wanted any regulation of any type, truthfully. But we always adjusted to whatever the regulation was. Now, I think we've gone, actually, as usual, we've thrown the baby out with the bathwater. The restrictions on lending have become so severe that the big banks are not responsive as they should be in, let's say, in real estate lending or in home lending or in small business lending, because there are too many I's to be dotted and T's to be crossed. And so I think we could actually use less regulation, let's say in loans 100,000 and under. When I was running the bank, I thought 50,000 and under, there ought not to be any, because the regulation adds so much cost to the making of the loan that it is a disincentive to the banks to make loans. So it would suit me if there was less specific regulation around the loans, and the judgment came back into play some. And I think maybe the small banks do a better job with that, but the reason they're small is they have less money and less customers. So I'm not big on small anything. I think that regulation has become too tight. I think it's good, the capital requirements are good, but the how-to piece of the regulation is too tight. That's what I think.
Thank you.
All right, Diego, back to you.
Okay, so for our third question, could you tell us what are some personality traits of a good leader?
Well, I think a good leader has to care about his followers. And if you don't care about your people, they know it. You can't have a little light bulb that comes on and says, I'm caring for you today. You really actually have to care. And you have to live it and act it out. And that is, you take care of people when they need help. And it can be anything. It doesn't matter what it is. You need to be responsive to the needs of your teammate. And so you very seldom meet a really good leader who doesn't actually like and care about his people or her people. And you communicate that not verbally, but by your actions, by what you do. And so, and I think the other thing is that you're fair and equitable in your judgment of their performance, and that they know you're fair and equitable, that you have to prove that. Those are things that I think a good leader does. And I think a good leader answers any question from a follower, doesn't matter what it is. You shouldn't have secrets from your teammates unless there's some law or something involved. In other words, you should say, yeah, this is what we're going to try to do, and here's why. So it's really not more complicated than looking after your own people. And the strange thing is we have so many people who don't care about their people running companies, and you think, I have a little litany about how to run a business. I mean, you should look at what CEOs say in the annual report and whatever. If they say, I'm looking after, my first job is to look after my shareholders, then you know they got a problem. Because the way to run a business is look after your people, they'll look after the customers, and that'll look after the shareholders. But the first thing is look after your own people. And if you don't do that, you won't win. I know that.
That's great. One more question. Kyoshi.
Our last question is, when the history books are written, what do you hope they would say about you?
Well, I hope they said that about me that I mattered, that having lived mattered, that I did something that mattered. Now, I don't care what it is they say that I did, but I hope, I would like to be remembered as having made a difference. and mattered that I was here. And that's why I keep working and trying to keep doing things, because I haven't proved that yet. I'm still working on it. Yes, so that's what I would like.
Thank you once again.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
Mr. McColl, thank you for being here and sharing your time and insights here at UNC Charlotte. Let's all show Mr. McColl our appreciation.
Thank you.